A lot of people have been talking noise about the Big Red. When Raiola slings it, you get on your feet, and I want 4 quarters of smash mouth football!
Welcome, Husker fans. Thank you for tuning in to Big Red Radio, the Husker Talk Show. I am your host, Caleb Jenneret. Next to me, as always, is my co-host, Zach. How you doing?
Good. Was doing better until the news hasn't technically broke yet, but it is picking up some steam that maybe Malachi Coleman will not be a Husker next year, which is unfortunate because I think he's really, really good, and I also don't disagree with the decision to redshirt him. I think he's really raw talent, but we also heard from the inside that maybe he doesn't know the plays super well, or maybe technique wasn't where it should be. And so that's unfortunate to see him go, because I do think he'll be really good somewhere. I wish it was obviously here. I don't know what the reason is behind it, but there could be a lot of them.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too far into it just because it's not official yet, and obviously anything can happen, and we just don't know what's happening. But, I mean, it sucks because we saw what happened last year. He was talented. He made some plays. But you also got to think about it, like, knowing the kind of coach that Matt Rule is, he's not going to sacrifice team success for, like, if Malachi was good enough to play a meaningful role, he'd be playing. Like right. Carter Nelson's barely playing, but he's playing. So you would think that Rule would have no problem burning that red shirt if it meant winning more games. Not saying Malachi's bad. We saw what he could do, and we saw that he's a freak athlete, and I don't want to speculate on what's going on. It's just, I don't think it's as cut and dry as, like, this guy should have been playing, I don't think it's that easy. A guy like Jalen Lloyd, who could also redshirt, he's playing. So it's like, I don't want to say he's not good, because he's obviously good enough. Or he's obviously good. He just might not be good enough. And there's some guys coming in, and there's some speculation, that Michael Terry and Cortez Mills could be flipping to Nebraska, and those are two receiver prospects right there. So it's like, maybe Malachi saw the writing on the wall. Things have been weird with him too. He didn't even travel to USC. He tweeted he just had a weird tweet earlier this year, which may not mean anything. I just don't want to speculate on it. But yeah, the news will probably officially break sometime this week, and wish him the best, obviously. But I'm not going to sit here and act like it's some pivotal piece to our future. Like, he's good. He could have been really good for us, but who really knows? It's going to happen. These guys are going to transfer, especially with the roster size needing to get down to 105. Guys are going to leave.
Yeah.
It's just how it's going to be.
Yep.
But there's not much other news to get into besides the game, so I want to kind of get right into it. I do want to say it's funny that Dana Holgorsen's quote is going, I don't want to say viral, but it's going pretty, like, semi-viral, where someone asked why he took the Nebraska job, and he said, I was bored. Obviously,
Right.
out of context, that looks like, wow, this guy doesn't care that much. It was obviously a joke, and it was obviously, yes, he could have been bored, and he could have wanted to finally get into it, but he goes on and talks about, like, we talked about it earlier in the year. I didn't think the timing was right. Comes in now, and it works out. So I think that's kind of, I like hearing Dana Holgorsen talk. He's very blunt. But yeah, I just thought that piece was funny. You got anything before we get into the game?
No, I think, are we getting into the USC game or the Wisconsin game?
Yeah, we can kind of do both. So briefly, I guess we can go over the USC game. It feels like so long ago at this point. I mean, Nebraska, I guess right before the game, the line was down to like 6.5, but Nebraska started out as a 9-point underdog. Like, so they covered that spread. I'm not trying to say moral victory. Nebraska definitely should have won that game. They had every opportunity to, but let's not act like this was some crazy upset that Nebraska just lost. USC's got good athletes. They've got a good offense. They've got a good play caller as their head coach. Nebraska had every chance to win that game, but that's a USC team that beat LSU, a USC team that should have beat Penn State. So it's not like this USC team is just trash. I do think the offense looked better. I know it didn't equate to many points, but I do think it looked smoother. The run game had some holes open. The pass game looked quicker, shorter stuff. I wish we didn't only do the short stuff. I know there was a play towards the end of the game where it just looked like Raiola, quickly scanned the field. Nothing was open right that second, so he just dumped it off to the running back for no gain. I wish that we would. It just feels like his confidence is off for some reason, but we'll talk about that a little bit. But do you have anything on the USC game?
Yeah, I think they played well. Obviously, the offense improved. I definitely don't think it's where it needs to be, but I think we also got to realize that this offense won't be perfect in a week. But like I said, it's little tiny things, and I think a lot of them did improve. I think first and second down were way more efficient this game than have been in the past. I think the pass game looked more efficient. I think the run game looked more efficient. Challenging the receivers to block on the edge, I think that looked better.
Yeah.
Defensively, I think most of the time we looked really good. 3 times where USC, you look at the touchdown that they got that should have been probably picked, the ball that looked like it was just being thrown away that didn't quite get out of bounds, and the guy comes up and catches it, and then you have the ball that was tipped up on the third and long and ends up winding up a first down for him. Those are 3 pretty pivotal plays, because if you get the pick and then the other one's a third and long and the next one's a third and long, that's 3 scores taken off the board right there. So I don't think the defense looked really bad. I think we caught a couple unlucky bounces that actually ended up being quite pivotal to the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about Tony White like we shouldn't be happy with his performance. Like Matt Rule mentioned it. Tony White's always going to take credit for, or I guess always going to take, oh my gosh, he's always going to take the burden for when the defense doesn't play well. But Matt Rule's like, we had the right calls. Like we had a ball go through our hands, we had a missed tackle, and we had that big play right before the missed tackle for a touchdown that Tommy Hill should have picked. So it's like they had the right calls. Players were in the right position, just didn't execute. And there was probably some where the defense wasn't in the right position. And a lot of, like, there was a wide open, Deuce, I think, what's his name? Deuce Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Caught a crossing pattern and just went. It's like, that just doesn't happen. Like, there's no call that's going to make that happen. There's probably a miscommunication of some point. So, yeah, getting into the Wisconsin game, we're going to do our keys to the game. We're going to do our player to watch. We're going to each give one player to watch, and then we're going to do our predictions at the end. So my first key to the game is Nebraska has to find a way to shut down the run. In their 5 losses, Wisconsin is averaging 118 rushing yards. In their 3 Power 5 wins, or Power 4, I guess, I didn't count the games against Western Michigan or South Dakota, they averaged 245 rushing yards. When they are forced to pass, they lose. Simple as that. They have a bottom 5 passing attack in the Big Ten. They're down to their backup, Braden Locke, who has only thrown for 168 yards per game, 9 touchdowns, 9 picks. And last week, he was held to 96 passing yards against Oregon, which obviously led to the firing of offensive coordinator Phil Longo. They do have running back Toby Walker, who I think started the year actually as like the third or fourth string, but he actually looks pretty good. I think he's top 5 or 6 in the conference in rushing. But other than that, they don't have much depth. The receivers are hurt. I know Will Pauling, who ate us up last year. I think he's a little bit beat up. I think he's going to play, but not entirely sure. But if you force this quarterback to throw the ball, especially with a new OC, this offense is going to look all out of whack. I guess I shouldn't say that because Nebraska's offense looked better when they fired their OC. So I shouldn't just assume that the offense is going to look worse. They didn't bring in a guy like Dana Holgorsen. Somebody on the staff is going to call plays. And honestly, I don't know if you watched. I watched Luke Fickell's press conference. He was very standoffish to the reporters asking about it. Somebody asked who's going to call plays. He's like, why does it matter? So you can just point at somebody when the offense does bad. So it's like, I don't think he's expecting the offense to do bad, but just the fact that he's so standoffish about it, something just doesn't seem right there.
Right.
So I think if you stop the run, you force Braden Locke to beat you, you're going to have good results.
Yeah, I think one thing that we haven't done against USC and UCLA is like truly get to the quarterback. When you go back and you watch the Colorado game, that's getting to the quarterback, right? And now we see Colorado might not be a bad team. I think the Nebraska team that played against Colorado probably beats USC, UCLA, Illinois, but we just haven't been able to see that first half team since the first half of the Colorado, right? That's getting to the quarterback. We've been beat by 2 running quarterbacks. Luckily, we don't have one coming up. He's not immobile, but he's not nearly as mobile as either of the quarterbacks that we've faced the last 2 weeks. But you have to get to the quarterback. 2nd and 15 is way harder than 2nd and 7, right?
Yeah.
So, like Caleb said, if you force them to throw the ball, you get to the quarterback, then they're kind of in a weird spot with someone who's never called plays before at the college level. So,
yeah. So my second one is kind of Nebraska's side to that. So you have to give Dylan Raiola time, and I think the pass blocking has actually been pretty good. I think they did pretty good against USC. We knew USC wasn't very good getting to the pass or getting to the quarterback, but they still did pretty good. They did pretty good against UCLA too, but Nebraska's had troubles in the passing game entirely. They can't beat man. They have to throw a lot near the line of scrimmage. Teams are blitzing them, and they're not letting the guys get open down the field. If Nebraska can get some shots downfield, Wisconsin's going to have to back off. That's going to allow Raiola to pick them apart all over the field. We've seen the splits. Raiola does much better against zone. When he can see that you're in zone and he can find the open spots, he's going to hit guys. You saw it in the Illinois game. You saw it sometimes in the Ohio State game where, some of those drives where he could just pick you off. But teams have been having success blitzing right up the middle, getting in Raiola's face. It's going to be another long day offensively if that can happen, and they're going to try to do it. The film's out there. Luke Fickell's a really smart defensive coach. He's going to blitz up the middle. He's going to do what other teams have been having success with. But a positive, Wisconsin is also bottom 4 in the Big Ten in sacks. So I think they can keep them clean for the most part. It's just going to be those key situational, when you try to get those shots downfield, and you can't just dink and dunk all the time. So if we can get those shots downfield, if we can protect Dylan, give Dylan Raiola time to see those balls downfield, we're gonna look a lot better on offense.
Yeah. So my second one is you have to run the ball. You watched Oregon last week play Wisconsin. That was a close game, right? Oregon played really bad, but towards the end of the game, they did throw the ball really well, but they really ran the ball well. Wisconsin could not stop the run against Oregon late in the game, and that's ultimately what killed them because it killed time off of drives. The way that Wisconsin was in that game and at one point winning that game was because they were doing 9-minute drives. 9-minute drives. I mean, that's unheard of, right? Because they were able to run the ball. Well, the only way you do that is if, you can get your offense on the field. If you can't stop the run against Oregon, then your offense is sitting on the sideline and your defense is getting tired. Dana Holgorsen said that, and I'm sure it's true, the holes are there. The running backs aren't hitting them, right? And so the opportunities are there. If we hit those, even if it's for 5-6 yards of play, that's perfect, right? It's right where we want to be.
Yeah, so actually that was my last key as well, was run the ball effectively. So I'll just add a few things. Wisconsin has the 88th worst rushing offense defense in the country, allowing 161 yards per game. This has to be the time, as you said, that Nebraska finds a way to run it. Obviously, what Dana Holgorsen said is a huge eye-opener. Last week, we actually saw some success against USC, breaking off. They weren't like big runs, but they were 10, 15-yard runs. And that's a USC defense who ranks almost 40 spots above where this Wisconsin defense ranks in terms of stopping the run. So whether it's Emmett Johnson, Dante Dowdle, or both, maybe Heinrich Harber gets a few carries in there, you need to find a way to get this run game going. But getting to our players to watch, I'll start with mine. Mine's a senior on senior day. As I said, need to be dominant, stopping the run, need to be dominant, getting to the passer. Ty Robinson. Actually, I'll bring up what Zach said. We need to see the Ty Robinson that played against Colorado. When Colorado and Nebraska played, I thought we were getting an all-conference type player with Ty Robinson. I mean, he was everywhere, and he's been really good. I don't want to sound like he hasn't been good. He's been really good. But that Colorado game, you're talking like all-American type impact. Like, he was dominant that game, and we need another day like that. Because if Ty Robinson gets dominant, they have to double team him. Nash Hutmacher then comes in. Then you get guys like Riley Van Poppel, who's playing now because the red shirts don't matter. Jamari Butler can get in there and stop the run as well. The linebackers can get to the running back. If Ty Robinson can be as dominant as he can be, this defense is going to have a really good day. So Ty Robinson is my player to watch.
Yeah, my final one is going to be the same as my final one from last week. Go win a game, right? Yet again, we had a chance, and I really thought we might do it. Botched pass interference call, maybe doesn't matter at the end of the day. We didn't get it done down there, and we had the chance. We absolutely had the chance to go win that game. This is a game against Wisconsin that we haven't been able to win for a very, very long time. A very long time. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin's had our number for as long as I can remember. Last year, probably should have won. Got up early on them.
The year before, we were up 14-3.
Right, year before that, up 14-3. We got to find a way to actually go win a game, right, at the end. And it's going to take every bit of it this week. So, that's a challenge to the team.
Yeah. So who's your player to watch? I didn't realize I skipped over your last key of the game.
Yeah. My player to watch is Janiron Bonner. I know Dana talked about a young player that he found that he thinks can help out the offense, and I think that's who it is. I think it's Janiron Bonner. We saw him a lot more in the USC game. He's a gamer, right? He's not going to be the fastest or the strongest or have, the best hops or the best hands. But at the end of the day, he's a gritty gamer type of guy, right? And so he's just a football player. That's just what he knows how to do. Like Matt Rule said in the early season, some of these guys, they're really, really fast. Some of these guys can block really well. Some can tackle really well. And some of them are just straight out football players, and they just know how to play football, and that's what they're best at. That's Janiron Bonner. And so I feel like he's going to be incorporated into this offense a lot, just since he is so much of a utility guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Loved getting him involved last week because he was really good. I think he played – I think it might have been his career high in catches. I think he had 3 catches, and then hope to see him get more involved as well this one because he can run the ball too. He can run the ball, catch the ball, block. He's really good. Getting into our score predictions. As of Wednesday night when we're recording this, Nebraska is a 2.5-point favorite with a line of 42.5, meaning Vegas is predicting a 22-20 win for Nebraska, around there, 23-20, 22-20. And they're predicting Nebraska to go to their first bowl game since 2016. Here's what I think. When Wisconsin can't run the ball, they lose. Nebraska has a top 20 rushing defense in the country. Besides Purdue, Wisconsin has the worst rush defense in the Big Ten. Wisconsin just fired their OC. This is Nebraska's senior day, the last time seniors are going to play in Memorial Stadium. Nebraska needs one more game to break the streak that we all know, make it to a bowl game for the first time in 7 years and get their 6th win. And I think they do it. I think this offense looks better. You know, even last week, it was weird. After the game, players just seemed confident in the way they were talking. And there was just this weird optimism, it seemed like. And even this week, like, they seemed confident. I mean, Dylan Raiola said, you know, we're going to come out next week. We're going to go to our bowl game. So, he's confident. We know he's confident. I think the offense looks better. I think the defense dominates. I think 24-10, Nebraska wins in this one. Nebraska covers, obviously, the underhits, and Nebraska clinches the bowl game, hopefully plays in a pretty good one, depending on what happens next week.
So I think Wisconsin defensively is going to be tough. Not because maybe Wisconsin has the best defensive players, but Wisconsin has a very good defensive coach in Luke Fickell. Offensively, I feel like they are going to struggle a little bit, but I do feel like it's kind of easy. Not easy, but Wisconsin's not a place where it's tough to come in and call plays, especially with the offense they run. It's very straight downhill. It's short passes. If you have any experience around an offense, then it's going to be pretty simple to you to be able to call plays for them and keep it pretty mellow. It's not going to be a perfect offense. But I do think Nebraska does win. I do think Nebraska's the better team. I think they keep Wisconsin a little lower on the scoreboard. I think Nebraska is kept a little lower as well, just because of the coaching ability of Luke Fickell and just the amount of tape people have on how to stop Nebraska, just because it's been happening all year. 21-17, Nebraska is my prediction. It's a little bit closer than Caleb's. I do think it's going to be a tight game still. Always is. I feel like always will be as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So now we're going to get to our picks of the week, our little Bet the Mortgage segment. My first one is Iowa, Maryland, staying in the Big Ten. We're going under 46. Iowa's going to start some scrub at quarterback, whether it's Cade McNamara or Stratton. The Maryland offense is good, but I think Iowa is good enough to hold them pretty well. And I think I just think there's no way this game hits the over. It's probably going to end something like 17-10, and Iowa's going to find a way to win with Caleb Johnson at the end.
Yeah, so I'm actually taking Iowa -6 in this game. I don't think Iowa's that bad of a team. I do think they're very inconsistent. But you look at some of their wins that they have, right? 42-10 over Wisconsin, 40-14 over Northwestern, 40-16 over Washington, 31-14 over Minnesota, 38-21 over Troy, right? A couple meaningless wins down there. But when they win games, they do it in a very, very strong fashion. So if you look at all of their wins, to be honest with you, 40-0, 38-21, 31-14, 40-16, 40-14, and 42-10. So Iowa knows how to win games by a lot. Okay, they know how to lose games they shouldn't lose. Michigan State, UCLA. You could even throw Iowa State in there. I think they're as fraudulent as it gets as well. But Iowa knows how to win games by a lot, apparently now. And so I do think they beat Maryland. And if like we say, or like I said, if Iowa wins, they're going to win by a lot. So a lot more than 6.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't sleep on Maryland. Maryland's not bad, at least offensively.
Right.
My next one, The big game of the week, staying in the Big Ten as well. Indiana, Ohio State, over 51.5. I think this game's going to be close throughout. I think Indiana's a really, really good team. I don't care what anybody says. The fact that these SEC teams are talking about Indiana in the same fashion as TCU 2 years ago is crazy. I don't want to get too far into the rant because it's just not what this show is for, but TCU was finding ways to win. Indiana is dominating everybody and not even close. But that's not the point. Indiana, as I said, I mean, they've been dominant. They haven't been stopped all year. I think Ohio State's going to have success with the passing game. And I just think both teams get to around that 30-point range. So I think it's going to be close. I do think it's going to be close with the over. But I think scores in the fourth quarter are going to determine it.
Yeah, I also think this game's going to be close. That's why I'm going Indiana plus 13 here. I've watched both these teams play Nebraska. I think the Indiana-Nebraska game should have been a lot closer, but I think Nebraska should have beat Ohio State. I do think Ohio State's a really good team, but I think Indiana's probably going to want it a little more. They got a little more fire under them than Ohio State. I think Indiana plays more like a team than Ohio State. I think Ohio State's a bunch of really good players, but I think they also play like a bunch of really good players. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Day gets out coached too. I think Kirk Cignetti is a really, really good coach as well. I don't know if they'll actually go out and win it. The skill of Ohio State might be too much for them, but it's definitely going to be close here. And so Indiana plus 13.
Yeah, I'm so excited to watch that game. I think we're only going to catch we should be able to catch most of it because I think they play.
If you have YouTube TV, you can split screen it and you can watch both of them.
That's true. But I actually think Indiana's going to play. They play at noon or 11 here, and then Nebraska plays at 3, right? 2:30. So the Nebraska game probably will start towards the end of the Indiana game, but yeah, super excited. I'm super excited to watch that game. My last one is Kansas plus 3 over Colorado. These are two of the hottest teams in the Big 12. Or these are the two hottest teams in the Big 12, two of the hottest teams in the country. I'm not convinced Colorado can stop a competent offense, and Kansas is playing like a really good offense right now. Colorado's only played one top 25 offense, and that was UCF, and I think UCF's gotten better since the Colorado game. So I think even then they probably didn't even play a top 25 offense. KU plays it a lot like Nebraska does. Obviously, they do it a lot more efficiently, playing in the Big 12 with better weapons. I think on the outside with not so good defenses. Obviously, this Colorado team has gotten better since Nebraska, but I don't think they're this world beater team that everybody thinks they are. And Kansas is playing really well. Kansas is playing exactly like people thought going into the year what they were going to look like. So I think this is either going to be a really, really close game, or I think KU absolutely blows them out. I don't think there's any way Colorado wins big. I think the running game for KU is going to be too much. I think they can sustain drives, and as long as Jalen Daniels doesn't revert back to early of the year, Jalen Daniels, I think they're going to have success. And I think KU's going to win this game. So the plus 3 to me, just to see if Colorado wins close, it's pretty good to me.
Yeah, mine is BYU plus 3. They play Arizona State. Now, I know BYU got beat by Kansas. That was a tight game, and I don't think they should have lost, but they did. I think BYU's mad, right? BYU was undefeated. No one really believed in an undefeated BYU, not a whole lot at least. And then they get beat by a Kansas team. Now no one really believes them, right? No one thinks BYU's good. I don't think BYU's great. I do think they're pretty good. I think Arizona State's good as well. I don't think they're as good as BYU. I think BYU needs to prove something here. Arizona State, it needs a lot of things to fall their way to make the Big 12 title game. BYU just has to win, right? That's all they got to do. And I think that's what they're going to go do, right? They understand they just got to go win. And they don't care how, but they got to do it. So I think they're going to. Feather the money line here, definitely hammer the spread.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. hit the bell so you don't miss an episode. Leave a like. Follow us on all socials, all in the description. Yeah, Zach, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, without further ado, go Big Red.
If we die, we die! If we die, we die!